The coronavirus has affected people all around the world, and here in Kenya is no exception. What it means in our field in conservation is quite devastating. The tourism impact is monumental. Tourism makes up over 10% of our GDP, and with people not traveling anymore and especially not coming to Africa, what we're seeing is a collapse in tourism. And places like this, Olpejeta, one of the most important conservancies in our country, are devoid of guests. There are over 170 rhinos here, and for them to be protected 24/7, they have to have a ranger force around them at all times. Most of the conservancies in Kenya depend on tourism revenues to survive. That money pays for all of the management, the roads, the maintenance, the fences, the rangers. And without that income, those places will collapse. I've been making a TV series called Wildlife Warriors. We've been filming since January. We then stopped shooting for about 5 months because of lockdown. Now we're allowed to film again. We're one of the very few film crews working in this country filming wildlife. We were able to film in the Maasai Mara. I think we were only one of 2 film crews filming the migration this year. I took time to talk to all the tourism entities in the Maasai Mara. This is our #1 tourism asset in the country. Most hotels remained closed. Some were partially opened. To reopen, they had to go through amazing level of inspections and requirements to ensure that if anybody came down with the symptoms of COVID, they could be isolated very quickly, and ambulances were put on standby to get people to hospitals. In many parts of the country, we've seen very interesting results. For example, down at the coast, where the conservancies that are taking part in maintaining the coral reefs and protecting coral reef areas, they have seen some interesting things happening down there. For example, the hotels have closed, the tourism is very low, the fishermen have nowhere to sell their fish. So in terms of the social consequences of coronavirus on people who live in wildlife areas, the impact has been very significant. There is a butterfly project in Arabuko Sokoke forest where hundreds of local farmers breed and raise butterfly chrysalises for sale overseas. All of that has collapsed. There's no income whatsoever coming in, and that's why support for conservation has been so vital at this time. People have lost jobs. People have lost an opportunity to make an income. Millions of people will not be getting jobs for the first time. Students are not getting their graduations. And that means many people are desperate for cash. That puts animals like rhinos right in the crosshairs, because those people who want to make quick money will target species like rhinos, elephants, lions, giraffes, animals that can get them quick cash. On a social level, for communities, it's even more severe than that. I've just come back from northern Samburu, where 61 girls out of a group of 65 will not be going back to school because they're all pregnant. Despite all the hardships and the difficulties and the challenges that we're facing around coronavirus, there are some things that have emerged that remind us of how important conservation is. First, animals like Najin and Fatu, the northern white rhinos, they're thriving. Many of the wildlife in Maasai Mara, the big cats, they're thriving. The vegetation is doing extremely well because there isn't that much traffic. So what we're seeing is an interesting kind of ecological recovery because of the reduced numbers of visitors driving around these landscapes. That's a big plus. We've been very lucky here in Kenya because many donors have come to support us, including the government of Kenya, which has actually put out a significant amount of funds to enable rangers to stay on their jobs across the entire country. And in addition, organizations like USAID and major conservation organizations have supported organizations that are working on the ground at the front line. For us at WildlifeDirect, we feel very privileged that we are one of the very few filming organizations on the whole continent who are still at work. We have just completed our 8th episode of production of Wildlife Warriors this year, and that means that despite the virus, we've been able to continue filming what's happening on the ground with our animals and our people. And we want to thank all the donors who have made this possible, including Princeton University and Impala Research Center, where we've actually been filming several of our shoots. This year, I think I was the proudest because despite coronavirus, with most of the international scientists returned back to their countries of origin, the Kenyan scientists have continued the work. And Dino Martins in particular told us how the pandemic has reminded us of how important it is to build our local capacity, to strengthen our ability to do this high-end research ourselves, and also to take responsibility for doing research on the things that matter the most to us, like studies of pandemics and the way that diseases move through our communities from our wildlife to our domestic animals as well.